So, as many of you know, it's hard to imagine that journalism could exist if we didn't have Twitter. Journalists spend all day on Twitter. They seem obsessed by Twitter. But actually, the thing that really drives most journalists is Tweetdeck, which is a mechanism to monitor Twitter using multiple columns. Twitter.com is easy to use on your phone, but if you're a super user, you actually want to be able to manage your Twitter engagement. And Tweetdeck allows you to have columns which might be hashtags that you're monitoring. It might be lists of people that you're monitoring. It might be keyword searches, as well as your actual Twitter account. So I'm just going to show you now on my screen how I set up my Tweetdeck and how I find it useful every day.
So welcome to Tweetdeck. This is what it looks like. You can access it by going to tweetdeck.twitter.com. Just to say, you do need a Twitter account first and foremost before you go to Tweetdeck, because you need to sign in using your credentials. So when you sign in, you kind of see something like this, kind of some default columns. I'm going to get rid of all these columns so we can start from scratch. And to do that, you just click on the little sliders and then click remove. So as you can see, the joy of Tweetdeck is that you can have multiple columns scrolling as you go. You don't need to do anything. They're just rolling in front of your eyes. It can become a little bit mesmerizing. And so in this tutorial, I want to show you how you can add 4 different types of columns. The first one would be a Twitter list. The second would be a hashtag search. The third one would be if you want to follow one particular account. And the last one would be if you want to search using Boolean search queries. So first and foremost, let's add a list. So if you click on list, you can choose any list that you are already subscribed to. So let's say I want to add a list to do with verification. I can add a column there. But let's imagine that actually I want to do this little trick, which is I often go and look to see other people's lists. So Donny O'Sullivan is a reporter for CNN. I actually interviewed him as part of this class. And he has got 130 lists. So you can go onto anybody's account on Twitter and see if they've got any lists that they have created or they subscribe to. So let's have a look at Donny's lists. He's got a number of different ones. He is a journalist. He works at CNN. No surprises there. But I wonder if here we go. So Disinformation Brain Trust, it's got 186 members. I think this might be a really good way of keeping on top of the disinformation beat. So if I click on that, I can go to the list. It moves relatively quickly because it's got so many members. Now you can see I'm already subscribed to this, but if I wasn't, you could click subscribe here, which means I now effectively can also follow this list. So if we go back to Tweetdeck and go to add column, add a list. Now let's see if we can find that in there we go, Disinformation Brain Trust. I'm going to add column. So that is merrily going to go on in the background. Now, what would it look like if we wanted to just add a hashtag search? So you click again, add column. Now, it's just a simple search. So we click on the magnifying glass and I'm going to search for deep fakes, which I actually did earlier, so it's remembered it. But there we go. We've now got a nice column that's moving around deep fakes. Now, what if I wanted to actually just follow one account? So let's take, for example, Craig Silverman, who writes a lot about these things. So let's see if we can find Craig. He also did a MOOC for the University of Texas at Austin. So we search for Craig. There he is. So this is now Craig's tweets that you see all sorts of things when you can see the kind of conversations he has. So I'm going to add that column. So now I can keep on top of what Craig tweets, and he tweets a lot about mis and disinformation. And so finally, what if I wanted to just do a Boolean search query? So I sometimes get frustrated by people, particularly journalists, writing about hacking and phishing and not being clear about the difference. So let's just see if we can find stories connected to that. So I'm going to put hacking or phishing attempt. Now, if I do this, I actually want that to be, I use the phrase bunny ears, but if you do that, it means it will look specifically for people using that phrase, phishing attempt. So let's see if anything comes up here. So I've put hacking or phishing attempt, and I can follow that. And I can add to that if I want. So let's take out the word attempt and say and election. So I might then compare side by side and think, actually, this is a better search query. So I'm going to delete this column. So some of this is trial and error. But as you can see, you can really make the most of Twitter by having a number of different columns. This can go as far as you want across your screen. I know journalists, some of whom have up to about 40 different columns on their TweetDeck. But hopefully, as you can see, this can be a really useful way of keeping on top of a particular subject rather than your normal twitter.com, which might be full of all sorts of different types of people. This is a way to keep on top of one particular topic.
So hopefully that was useful, and you can now, if you haven't accessed TweetDeck before, just go to tweetdeck.com. They don't have a mobile phone app, but really all those columns require a lovely big desktop monitor. But hopefully if you start using it, you'll realize that your use of Twitter can be much more effective, and you no longer have to spend all day scrolling through stuff that's not useful to your journalism. But for some of you, you might not want that excuse.